Hey there, in this Photoshop tutorial I will show you how I created this image in Photoshop. I combined two stock images, the couple that you can see here and also the background, and then I added some light effects. But what I want to show you in this tutorial is how to work with the hair. I will show you a technique of masking hair without making too advanced selections or things like that. And then we will make some color adjustments and add some light effects, as you can see here. So let's get started. Well, first of all, this was I wanted to make a premium tutorial out of this, but well, I have to admit that I didn't think that that comment would receive more than 100 positive votes, and in fact it got more than 100 votes in less than 4 or 5 hours. And well, I said that I will make the tutorial, but the comment would get 100 votes, and well, here I am making this free tutorial for you. For people that don't know what I'm talking about, I published a comment. Let me go to my YouTube account. I published this video when I was talking about the history, snapshots and things like that. It was a really quick video, it was a quick tip. And someone commented, Christian commented, please make a tutorial out of this picture. And I said that I will make the tutorial if his comment will receive more than 100 positive votes. And you can see it has 167. And well, it actually got that in less than 4 or 5 hours. And I added a few light effects here, as you can see. The original was not like that, but I'll show you how I added this. It's just to add a bit more colors to the image, because, it looks a bit better, I think. This is the final PSD, and after that I added some color effects. I'll show you how I did that using adjustments. But this is the final image. In fact, it's quite big, it's 6,000 pixels. And what I said about the hair, this is what I want to show you how to deal with the hair. You can see every single hair is there, is not lost. And I want to show you how to do that without making any complex selections. For premium users can download the PSD file on my website, and also the full resolution of the image and also this video. But for free users, I will provide a smaller resolution of the stock images, because these are purchased from Deposit Photos. I purchased them from there, so I'm not really allowed to redistribute the images, but I'll give you a small resolution version of this images, so you can try the tutorial for yourself. And well, let's get started. What I will do is actually go back in the history here, because I want to see those, if I can still have them. No, I merged the image, because you can see this was the original image that I took from the other document, and then I added a blue cast and some other color effects. But well, we'll try to get the same effects. I'll close this. Okay, we'll start with the background image. I'll use this tutorial also to tell you a bit about how I make this composites. I usually start with the background, and I also mentioned that when I made the redefining time tutorial. It was a 2 hours long tutorial, I think. Well, 2 or 3 hours, I don't remember. Anyways, when I talked about the tutorial, I said the same. I usually start with the background and then add the elements, adjust the perspective if I need to, and then blend both images, adjust contrast and color and things like that until they match. And that's what I did on this image as well. So usually what I do is start with the background. So let me open the background image. It's this one. So let's open it with Photoshop. I don't know what I did. Open with Photoshop CS6. Okay, so this is the image. You can see it's quite big. It's 6,000 pixels. I'll make it smaller, although I should not make it smaller, because then I used the clone stamp tool to get rid of all these details, all these cables, this window over here. Let me show the original. Okay, so this was the original image, and then I cloned all these details. You can see I got rid of all these cables and this window over here, and I did that using the clone stamp tool. What I will do is show you how I did it, start showing you how I did that, and then probably copy that layer and paste it here, because I spent like maybe half an hour doing that, so I don't think it's worth spending so much time doing that. I think you already know how to use the clone stamp tool. But anyways, I'll make you a quick demonstration, sorry. So I set this to current and below and created a new layer, which I'll name cloned, because I want to work non-destructively, and this is the best way to do it. I set the blend mode of the brush to normal, opacity and flow to 100%, and this part here is easy to remove because we have this pattern here, which is easy to blend. So what you do is, with the clone stamp selected, press and hold the Alt key to sample from an area close to what you want to clone, and simply paint like that to cover your object. And you can clone these bricks here on top of your image. Make sure you align the images. You align the lines, sorry. Otherwise you will end up with unwanted effects. So something like that. Let's try and fix this part here. Actually, I'll use the eraser and erase this part and get the clone stamp tool again. When you have solid lines, straight lines, or lines that are more visible, it's advisable to use a higher hardness setting. Or if you use a soft brush, use a small brush, because you will not have too much control over the edge of the brush, even though you see the round, the circle there ends there. If the brush is really soft, the effect goes beyond that line, so you cannot really control it. That's why I increased a bit the hardness. Okay, so that's how you do it. It just takes time, but you have to be patient in Photoshop. That's a lesson that you will learn in time. And it's always worth spending more time on something, because you will get better results, and better than what I'm doing here right now, because I'm doing it a bit quick. But anyways, you can see it's not really that bad. This area here, I don't really like it, but well, as I said, take your time. Let's try removing this part from here as well. Let's clone from here, and then I'll decrease a bit the hardness. So when you sample, you can see that where you put the brush, you will see the area where your you will see the area where you sampled from, which is good because you can now align the lines and paint over like that. Sample from here and do something like that. I don't like it. I want to make the brush bigger, because right here I want to get a part of that edge of the building there, because that way I can overlap them like that and paint, and it's gone. And let's do the same here. Since this is a shaded area, we have this big shadow or dark area, it's easier to mask. You don't have to care too much about the edges, and you can actually make the edges yourself, like so. Nobody will know that. Well, you can tell that pattern there, which is not good, so try to avoid repeating patterns. Anyways, I'm doing this really quick. But well, these areas are not areas of interest, so people will usually not look there. They will be attracted by the couple, which we will add there. And well, I did the same with the top part here. You can use the brush tool, use a big, the clone stamp tool, sorry. Use a big brush, a big clone brush, and just paint over the area like that. If it doesn't work at the first pass you make, just use a bigger brush, but avoid making multiple passes, because you can see you have a lot of lines here, and you will start to blend them, and it will not look nice. You will start to see, let me see if I can do it here. See, you can, these are really small lines, but you will start to overlap them, and that not looking good. So try to get it right on a couple of passes. Just use a bigger brush, sample from further away, and just do it again. And that's it. And the toughest part was here on the cables. I used a small brush and a hardness of about 40%, and just sample from one place and then cover that. Let's use a softer brush. See, maybe it works a bit better. This part is more difficult because you need to match the contrast, and the problem with the clone stamp tool is that it's not like the spot healing brush tool or the healing tool, so it doesn't match the contrast automatically. That's why I have to sample from areas that are close together. Okay, something like that. And you have also this problem with the line here. What I did also, when the light was not really straight, I made the brush smaller, increased the hardness to about, let's see, 90%. But select the brush tool because I want to brush. I want to paint the line myself. So what I did is I zoomed in and sampled a color from that line there. And let's see if I can paint it. Make it really small, the brush. Hardness to about, as I said, to about 90%. Okay. And decrease the brush even more. Paint once there. Press and hold the shift key to create straight lines. Remember from the previous tutorial when I said if you press and hold the shift key, you can create straight lines, connect points. Let's delete that. Oops, I almost messed it up here. I'm painting on the cloned layer, so okay, so I painted over that line myself to make it look a bit more straight. Let me do it again. Okay, now it looks a bit better. Okay, and let's continue with the clone stamp. I will try to remove this part here and then leave this part and do it yourself. Let's decrease the hardness back to where it was. And you can see I'm sampling from close to the area that I want to cover so that I keep that the same contrast, even so you can see the change here. I'll show you how to fix that. I'll show you the technique that I use. Okay, that was bad. Make the brush a bit smaller. Oh, that's not good. So usually if you want to go that direction, just put your mouse there, go up a bit, sample from there and come down, and you will keep that. That's the best way to keep the same contrast and color. Okay, so let's see how you can fix that. You can use the mixer brush tool because this tool mixes the colors. And I don't know if it's available on all Photoshop versions, but you can do things like that. I'm using really low settings here, and make sure you check this to clean the brush after each stroke, and simply stroke a few times, make a few passes too. It's kind of like airbrushing. You can smoothen up areas. I use this a lot for smoothing skin. You lose a bit of texture, you can see that. From the original if you compare this two, so you better get the cloning thing right to begin with. So well, that's how I remove those cables. Also from the top part, let me see. See, I cleaned all this area here. So yeah, that's what I did with the clone stamp. You can also try using the healing brush or healing brush tool or the patch tool for big areas and just sample areas and adjust them and to make small corrections. But to cover big areas like that, the clone stamp tool and the patch tool are the best tools to use. Okay, so let's move on and add our models. So I'll go back to my stock folder and open them with Photoshop. So the reason, the way I extracted this models here is with the pen tool. I will not spend time doing that because I already have a tutorial and it's not really difficult. All you need to do is select the pen tool, set here from shape changes to path, and all you need to do is, or you can use another extraction method that you want. I'll show you another one. But what I did is I created a path like that around the edges. So you have to do that, go around like so. And I'm doing it really quick. Something like that. Don't worry about the shadows. You can keep them if you want to. There's a method to keep the original shadows using contrast masking, but I already have a tutorial about that as well. Basically, you get the same image, you put it on below the original, change it to black and white, and remove everything except the shadows and change the blend mode to multiply. And the white background will go away and you'll keep these original shadows. And well, let's go around like that. And when you get to the hair, especially on the woman's hair, what I did is I left some space like that, and also around the man's hair a bit. Connect the ending point and the start point. And once the path is ready, right click and select make selection. Leave the feather and everything as it is and click OK. And you will convert that path into a selection like this. And then click the layer mask icon and you will mask the background. And you'll have everything. Well, you have to extract this part as well. Everything is extracted and you'll have this area around the head, around their heads. And I'll show you why I did that. So what I will do now, well, let me show you another way of doing it. It probably works well for this particular image. The magnetic lasso tool is also really good. You can set the contrast here, so the sensitivity to the contrast, how sensitive is to contrast changes, because this tool works like that. The width determines how big this brush is. Right now is at 15. If I set it to 25, it makes it bigger, and this circle is the detection area, so any change that it detects in this circle will be, so this is the action area, so to say, of this tool. Let's leave it to 15. And all you do is click here and follow the edge, and you can see it adapts. It creates a path just like I did before, but if you double click, it will close it, and it will automatically turn it into a selection. So you can create a selection like that. You can use this tool to select a part of the image and then use the pen tool if you want. You can see it works pretty well. Just follow the edge like that. And on top of that, it also gives you really good edges. It's not like the quick selection tool, because the quick selection tool gives some really bad edges most of the times. You can see that there on the shoe, the selection was pretty bad. But as I said, you can make a selection on areas like this, and then fix the details with another tool. Let's follow. You can see how quick it is. Just follow the edges like that. So I just clicked once and now I'm following. And if you want to move the image, press and hold the space bar, and the mouse turns into a hand, and you can continue with the selection. And if you want to undo, you can press the backspace and it will start deleting those points. You can go back and it's like undoing the points and do it again. And you can also click if you want to force add a point like that. And when you get to the head, again, leave some space like that. Come back and double click there, or click on the first point, and you get the selection. And again, click the layer mask, and then with another tool fix the parts here. Okay, I'll go back to the original image and copy the image from there. Let me find it. Right here I have it on a group because I added a few layers. So this is the image. I'll double click on it. It's a smart object. So this is the original image, the cutout. So you can see I took care of all the edges and I left this area around their heads. So what I will do, I have the mask here, you can see it, and what I will probably do is try that shadow technique to keep the original shadows. And what I'll do is use the move tool, click on the image and drag it, but I have to, oh no, that'll work well. I have to link the layer mask to the layer, otherwise they move independently. Okay, so I'll leave the couples there and I'll make a duplicate because I want to try that shadow thing that I talked about. I will delete the layer mask. And I will turn this into black and white. Press Ctrl Command U, but it's not working. I don't know why. What the hell? I don't know what's happening. It's not working. The keyboard shortcut. Hue saturation and decrease the saturation and press Ctrl Command L because I want to keep these shadows here and I want to increase the highlights and the midtones as well. So I only care about this thing here, the shadows on the ground. Click OK and then press Ctrl Command L again. And let's change this to multiply now. And let's activate the image on top, but I moved it slightly. So let me move it back in place to where it was, right there. And now you can create a layer mask for this and remove everything, but with the brush tool and a soft brush, and just mask everything except the bottom part with the shadows right there, like that. And that way you keep the original shadows, but well, it's not looking bad. I would probably add some blur to it, not too much, about 3 or 4 pixels. Then make sure I brush this area and only leave those shadows. Well, that's a technique of keeping the original shadows, but I made it really quick, so what I will do is delete it. Okay, so this is my model layer, and the next thing we're going to do is deal with this part here on the hair and show you how to mask that. So the first thing I want to do is duplicate the models layer, pressing Ctrl Command J, and on the bottom one I will name it to screen, because we will change the blend mode of this image, of this layer, to screen. I'll apply the layer mask because it will make the file size smaller, and I'll zoom in and make sure you don't move these layers. If necessary, you can select both of them and link them, because they have to be one on top of the other one. That's really important. Not even a pixel of movement, so you have to keep them exactly on top of each other. And I'll change the blend of this layer to screen. And if I disable the top layer, you can see what happens. The reason why I changed this to screen, let me go back, is because this background is almost it's almost black. It's actually gray. You can try also the soft light. If you have a 50% gray background, the soft light blend mode usually works best, but you lose parts of the image. And what I did, let's try with a soft light, maybe with the overlay, because on soft light the 50% gray disappears. But let's try working on the screen blend mode, because we can see the hair a lot better. We can see the highlights on the hair, and we can also, even though we have a bit more problem here on the background, we can fix it. And the way I fixed it is using a levels or curves adjustment layer clipped to the screen layer, because now I can adjust this. I can make it darker, and remember that on the screen blend mode, darks become visible. So that's what I want to do. I want to still see the hair but get rid of the background. Not completely. You don't have to do something like this because you will lose detail on the hair. Okay, so keep it somewhere there, something like that. That looks good. Okay, because you want to still have those highlights on the hair. And now I will create a layer mask for both for the screen layer and for the models. Let's get rid of the copy word. And now I'll reactivate the models layer, and I have this layer mask here. You can apply it if you want, but I'll keep it there. I can use it now. Well, actually, I would suggest, yes, to apply it, because I will use a soft brush to hide parts of this, and it will probably mess with the edges. So you probably want to apply it or convert this into a smart object. And then if you want to edit this, if you double click on this, you will open and you will have that part here and the original layer mask in case you need it. Okay, so let's leave it as a smart object. Let's not save that, and create the layer mask here now. I hope this is not too confusing. It's a bit more advanced. Well, it's not really advanced. It's a bit more, I would say, intermediate. But anyways, and I get the brush tool, use a soft brush, hardness 0, and opacity and flow to 100%. And now what I want to do is delete this part here using this layer mask and reveal the transparent image below the screen layer. So let's do that. So see how easy it is to do this without having to make any complex hair isolation and things like that. You have to be careful on the man's hair, because use a smaller brush and just switch colors, black and white, so switch back and forth as you need it, and just paint with the soft part of the brush on the edge. Don't do things like that, because you will also mask the hair itself, and you don't want to have problems on the hair on the edges. You want to keep the edges realistic, because you'll start to see some color problems if you mask too much. Just on the edge with a soft brush. We will deal with this part, don't worry. But this is the part that we're more interested in. And now we have to go back to the screen layer mask, because you can see this part is still visible, and this is from the screen layer. Okay, so select the layer mask of the screen layer, and again with the soft brush around, but not too much, because you'll start to remove the hair, the tip of the hair. So probably use an opacity and a flow to about 50%. Or one thing that I just thought about right now is you can use the burn tool, because you will all change this to shadows, because you only want to affect the shadows. And well, yeah, this works a lot better. Well, I don't know, let's undo. You still remove some parts of the hair, so probably, well, I'll try a combination of both. So I'm using the burn tool, because remember I had that black background, but this we have some highlights here or something, and instead of using the layer mask, I want to burn this to make the background even darker, so that it disappears without removing hair. Undo that. Okay, and we can do the same here. You can see I have the exposure at just 6%, and have the shadows, the range set to shadows. I just want to darken that part of the background there. And here, even though I burn, it's probably easier if you use the layer mask. Well, anyways, it works quite well. Just make multiple passes. And I'll switch the layer back to normal so you can see what I did. You'll see it in just a second. Okay, that looks nice. This part here as well. So now we have all the hair and the background there without having to make any weird masking. Let me show you what I did. I just burnt around this, see this darker parts here? I just burnt that. And then with the levels, it becomes even darker. And when we switch to the screen blend mode, the darkness goes away, but not the levels, the screen layer. Okay, so that's why it disappears. So that's how I created the hair. And next thing what I want to do is make the shadows. Before making the shadow, let's group these layers because we want to save some space on the layers palette. Let's name it models, and I have this PSD file here which I will close and not save. I think it's from the other document. And in order to make the shadows, well, first I need to duplicate the models layer. I'll get the bottom one, press and hold the Alt key and click and drag down to create the duplicate. I'll delete the layer mask because I don't need it. I will not apply it, just delete it, and I'll name this model shadow and change the blend mode of this to normal, and press and hold, well, press Control Command U, so the hue saturation, and decrease the lightness to 0. And that way we have a duplicate of the silhouette there, you can see it. And all we need to do now is press Control or Command T, that way we load the free transform. We right click on it and choose Flip Vertical. And now just drag it right here under our models here. And I'll have to zoom out. And I have to press the, I don't know what key was, the F key. Let me undo. Because now I can move the canvas out of the screen like that. If you have it fixed like that, you cannot move it. You can see even though I tried to move it because I want to see the bottom part, I cannot do that. So press the F key a few times until you can move the canvas around. And now I can flip this vertically. Place it there. Oh, I still can't see it, but what I want to do is reach this point here. That's why I want to move this up. And now I'll press the right click and choose, let's try distort, and click on this bottom point and drag it somewhere there. The light should be coming from this lamp, I guess, or from that other lamp that's behind the man right there. So I will assume the shadows go from go on that side. So if you don't agree with me, don't post comments saying that the shadows going on the wrong direction. I got plenty of comments on my previous tutorials. Just place them wherever you want. I just did it like that. You can, if you think it goes on the other side, just do it, and that's it. And in order to fix the, to adjust it exactly where I want to, I'll right click again and choose warp. And now I can move each part right there. I'll use the brush tool to fix this and move that part there, and this one right here, probably. We'll still need to paint some shadows manually, but the raw shape, we'll have it there, create a layer mask for it, and then zoom in and use the brush tool. Let's leave the opacity and the flow to 100%. And paint with black because I want to remove this part here. Like that. I could have adjusted this a bit better. Well, anyways. And I'll create another layer and I'll name it Shadow 2. And just with the brush tool, just paint with a hardness of about 40%. Paint some shadows right there. But use the hardness actually at 100% because I will smoothen the entire, well, actually this is on a separate layer, but I will probably end up merging them, I don't know. Now I'll decrease the hardness because I need to paint some softer shadows under his shoes here. If you're struggling making these shadows, don't worry too much. You need some practice in order to start making good shadows, so don't waste too much time. Make some basic shadows and that's it. I'm doing it really quick here, so I'm not doing a really good job, but as I said, the purpose of the tutorial was not to show you how to make these shadows and stuff like that. Just I wanted to show that hair thing and some color effects that we will add later, and some light effects maybe. I'll undo that and try again, and use the layer mask to get rid of that. And make some shadow here. And with a soft eraser, just get rid of some of part of the shadow here, which was not realistic. You need to train your eyes in order to make good shadows, and take your time, be patient. I did a quite horrible job here, but anyways. I'll show you the original. I think I did something a bit better than here. If I did not close that document. Okay, here it is. Let's go back here so you can see the shadows. Let's go back and find the shadow layers. Okay, so I created these soft shadows. These are shadows that I painted myself right there, and then this is the shadow that I created from that silhouette. Okay, so let's go back to our document and do the same here. What I will do is select the model's shadow and go to filter, blur, and add some Gaussian blur, not too much, 4 or 5 pixels. Let's try with 6. Okay, and then reduce the opacity slightly, about 50%. You can use the shadows on the image as a guide. We don't have too many shadows right here, but anyways, we'll have some shadows right here, but well, I'll leave them like that, and I will apply the layer mask. Right click on it and choose apply layer mask, and I'll create a new one. And this is not necessary, just to show you what you can do. Oops, I saw something right there. I don't know what that is. This thing here should not be there. Oh, I don't know what it did. Something went wrong. Oh yeah, when I decreased the opacity, this started to show up. Let's use the same opacity as 60%. I freaked out a bit. Well, let's first merge both layers and then create the layer mask and decrease the opacity of both at the same time. Okay, 65. This layer mask can be used to fade the shadow. You can select the gradient tool, use the linear type, and just to create fade the shadow gradually like that. In this case, it's not really necessary because they look good already, so don't bother too much doing that. And you can see I like the shape of the shadow, but it's too strong, the gradient. So on CS6, if you double click on the layer mask, you open this window and you can change the density. And the density is sort of like, let me activate only the layer mask so you can see it. By the way, you can do that if you press and hold the Alt key and click on the layer mask. It will display the layer mask on the entire canvas. So if you decrease the density, it's like changing the opacity of the layer mask. And black hides everything, and if I decrease the density, it becomes gray, which means it lets through the images. The image the background can be seen through that. And with the feather, you can increase the blur. Is just like adding blur to the layer mask. And let's go back and see. Something like that. It looks a bit better than without, I think. Anyways, that's how I created those shadows. And what else? We can start adding effects now. As I said on the previous tutorial that I made on the quick tip, this was not finished when I made it, so I wanted to add a few other things maybe, but in the end I ended up adding a few light effects just to add a bit more color on the image. But so the first thing we can do is add some curves. So add some curves on a new layer on top of everything without clipping the curves to anything. I wanted to add a bit of blue on the shadows, so I selected the blues from the drop down and just click here on the shadows and drag this up a bit, and you can see how it adds more shadows on the blues. And if you want to add, you can create that split tone effect. If you get the highlights and drag it down, you can add more yellow on the highlights, because this yellow is opposite to the blue. That's what you can do. And maybe a bit of cyan also on the midtones and shadows. You can see the effect. It kind of adds some coldness to the image. And the next thing that I did is I added that solid color. I used that solid color technique. Choose a really dark purple or blue color like this, which is almost black. Change the blend mode to exclusion, and it kind of softens the image a bit. So the effect is too strong, so I'll use an even darker color. And the more saturated it is, what this thing does is it inverts the image, so it creates sort of a split tone effect. So if you use black, you'll have no effect, and if you increase the lightness of the color and make it more saturated, the shadows become blue, and it adds a bit of light on the shadows, and the highlights become yellow. So you can use something like this and decrease the opacity, but I like to use this dark tone, like so. And what I want to do is here, I like this small highlight here. There's a light right there, and what I want to do is make this effect here a bit stronger. So I will select the cloned layer, which is on top of that, which hides that camera and those cables. Create a new layer on top of that. Change the blend mode of this to color dodge. For casting lights, the color dodge blend is quite good. Use a soft brush, quite big. Set the opacity and the flow to 100%, and now select a really dark orange or yellow color depending on your taste, something similar to that but darker. And I want to use a bigger brush, something like that, and just click once and see that it adds a bit more light there. I like that. You can also do that there. You can also light up areas wherever you want. And if you want to adjust this, if you want to change a bit, maybe it's too saturated, you can press Ctrl Command U to lower the hue saturation, and now you can change you can see the color, you can change the hue of it. I want it less saturated and a bit brighter. If you increase the lightness, it becomes really bright, which is not really what you want, maybe. Okay, so maybe something like that. And click OK. See the before and after. Just brightened it up just a bit. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is add those light effects, those colorful light effects. And here there's no limit at what you can do. I used a really simple distort technique. Something happened to Photoshop because it's not responding. And I'll pause the video and see what's happening. So let's go back to the stock folder. And I use this pack of light effects. I have it on my website for free. You can download it. And I think I use this light. You can use any light. It's not really important. Let's open it with Photoshop. And what I did is I selected the entire canvas with Ctrl A, copy it, close it with Ctrl W, and paste it above my image here, and pressing Ctrl Command T can make it bigger, like so. And then change the blend mode of this to screen because we don't want the blue background, we just want the light. So let's change this to screen. You can see the light here. I used a technique like this in many of my tutorials. And now, in order to add some more interest to this, you can use the distort filters, or you can press and hold. You can press Control Command T, right click and choose distort. And let's wait for the distort filter to warp. Sorry. Okay, and you can create crazy shapes like that. You don't even have to worry about what you're creating. Well, of course, you can think about what kind of shape you want, but really it's better to just experiment. Press enter and let's see what we get. Come on. Wow, my light just disappeared. I don't know. I'll do it again. Something happened. Let's warp this again. Okay, let's press enter and see what we get. Okay, so this is the light that I got. And another thing that you can do is I will undo. You can use the polar coordinates filter to create shapes like this. See that? Or if you use rectangular to polar to rectangular, you get this other kind of shapes. And once you apply it, you can see this kind of light that you get. You can press Control Command F to apply the filter again. Move the image around a bit, apply the filter again with Control F. And you get all this sort of light effect. It's not really nice for this particular image, but that's what I did, and that's how I got these shapes here. And I also used, for this particular image, I also used, let me see if I can go back in the history, the wave filter. So what I did is I used the store filter, the wave filter, and all you need to do is decrease a bit the scale and then increase the amplitude and the wavelength. And you can see the kind of distortion you can get. That looks okay to me. Let's click. Of course, you can change here from triangle, square to whatever you want. Let's give it on sine. Okay, so this is the light effect that you can get. And of course, once you apply the wave filter, you can place this here, or you can I like that shape because I want to somehow connect I mean the shoulder and to follow a bit the shapes of the body. That always combines well. And after you apply the wave filter, you can make combination of filters. You can now warp this, and after you warp it, you can apply the polar coordinates filter. So there's really a lot of freedom. You can do whatever you want. Let's try another distort filter, for example, the twirl. You can create stuff like that, but that's too extreme. I don't really like it. Let's try another one. Let's try the shear filter. Okay, so you can create shapes like that, place them there, and make it a bit, I'll squeeze it actually. And that way I connect the man's arm with the woman's back here or hair or whatever. Something like that, and that line goes away there in the distance. I don't know. Then you can press Control Command U because we have the same colors if you want to change a bit the color tones. I like this one. And you will see that we have these lines here that are not really visible until you zoom in. we don't need this one. So you can create layer masks or just simply use the eraser tool with a soft eraser, and opacity and float to about 80 or 90, and just remove this parts here because we don't only want the main lines. Don't remove this tail here, for example. Well, you will get a different shape. Don't try to get the same shapes as I did, because it's nearly impossible to do that. That's why I like this technique, is you can end up with shapes that you never anticipated. Okay, so we have those main lights there. Then I also used another light pack. It's on my hard drive, but I don't have it here, so I'll give you the link to that. It's another stock image of light effects. And okay, so this is the line that I got, but of course you will get different lights. Of course you can try to warp them so that, as I said, to match the shapes of the body, to follow the man's arm, for example, or wrap it around the head, or well, just take your time, think about, and do whatever you think looks nice. And then you can emphasize these colors if you create a new layer and change the blend mode of this to screen. And with the screen blend mode right now, you have to use really dark colors. And what I want to do is add a glow of light here, because I like this highlight there. So let's assume it's a light source. So we can do something like that, and we can play with colors, complementary colors. Blue, for example, complements that yellow, so we can use a tone of blue and see how it looks. So let's switch to blue and maybe make the brush a bit smaller, so we can see that kind of color that we got there. And maybe some purple right here. The darker is the color that you use, the less effect it has. So if you want to have less effect, use a darker color. I said this on other tutorials. Don't use a bright color like that and then decrease the opacity of the layer, because it's not going to have the same effect. It's a lot better to just use a darker tone, and then you have less effect. I want to add some glow of light there, maybe a dark cyan. Let's see how it looks, because the man's suit, it's almost bluish because of that levels of the curves, sorry, that we used. Just a tint of color. That's the most common mistake that I see. A lot of people create really high contrast images using strong colors. It's usually less, it's more, so you have to train your eyes, as I said, until you start to see what looks nice and what not. And after you add these colors, if you want to try different colors, you can press Ctrl-Command U. If you use different colors on this screen layer, and then change the hue, so you can try different color combinations, or maybe increase the saturation, or maybe decrease the lightness so that you have less effect. Okay, so I like this. And then you can create another layer, and this time change the blend mode to color dodge. And here you have to use really, really dark tones, like this one, for example. Maybe if even this one is too strong. So you can enhance the highlights, well, not the highlights, the brightness of those colors. You make them more alive, I don't know. Let's do the same here. So see that? It's too strong. Just use a really, really dark color just to add a bit of brightness right there. And maybe a bit there. Maybe here on the face I would use an unsaturated yellow, just to add a bit of brightness on the face. See that? A bit darker and more unsaturated. So see the brightness that we had. Maybe we can create sort of a halo around the head. Well, it doesn't look bad. Maybe add a nice highlight right here using a small brush with a really unsaturated yellow. Right now I'm on the color dodge layer, so I need to use something. I want to use something a bit brighter. Oh, that's too bright. Something like that maybe. And then on the screen layer, use a brighter tone and see what we get. Yeah, I like that. Just to create a... And you can also use the lens flare effects. I have a lot of lens flare packs. And maybe add some small flare there that, well, I want to use that, but my hard drive is turned off. So I'll pause the video and I want to add a flare there just to see how it looks, and so I will pause the video and turn on my hard drive and add a lens flare there. So let's open a flare stock. You can see I have a lot of flares here. I'll give you links. These are not made by me. I'll give you the links to the author that created this lens flare. Flares are really good as well. I'll use mine. I really like this one, Optical 3. I think the first pack is free. I have another version 2, which is for premium users with higher resolution, but this one I think it's free, version 1. I'll give you the link to that on my website. Let me sample a color and get rid of this. Get rid of the website name. If you use them, make sure you credit me, okay? You can delete that and use it, but add a link to my website is not really much to ask for. So I'll paste that there. Oops, looks like I didn't copy it. Let's open it again. Not this one. The optical flare. And don't save. Let's turn off the hard drive because it's too loud. And paste that there and change the blend mode of this to screen. So the same technique with the screen blend mode to get rid of the black background. And just add that flare there. I will probably remove those lights that I added. Let me do that now because I think it has too much light. And then I will add them back if I need to. Okay, change this blend mode back to screen. Make the image smaller, about 30%. And just add it there. Yeah, it looks nice. These light effects always look nice on things if you place them where in good places. Okay, you can even add some small flares right here on the earrings. They're really beautiful. I cannot open the image again because I already turned off the hard drive, but you can paste a glow. You can create a glow of light right there using a blue color, maybe. See that? It looks nice, but more saturated. Okay, something like that. Okay, so now that we added all these light effects, I added some more. I added a few more light effects and some fire particles. But well, you've seen how I did it. And the next thing that I did is I created the final color effects. And usually what I do is create a stamp. So I select the top layer, press Shift, Alt, Command, or Control E, and that gets all the layers here on the image, everything that you see, and it merges them on a new layer, which is called a stamp. And let's name this final. And usually I turn this into Smart Object because I use filters and stuff like that. The first filter that I used is the lighting effects filter, as you probably know by now. I use this filter a lot. So I go to Filter, Render, Lighting Effects, and I want to focus the light right here and maybe add some vignetting right there. You can see the light. Oh, it's perfect right how it is. You can add a cast, you can cast some light, some color, you can change the color a bit, but if the light is too strong, one trick that you can use, instead of decreasing the intensity, because sometimes it's difficult to match it, you can have more control if you use a darker color. Okay, so you get the same effect. Maybe colorize a bit the highlights. I use a small hotspot, something like that. The gloss, let's reduce it a bit because the highlights are too bright. Make sure you don't burn the highlights. I have two lights, as I can see. Yeah, I had this point light here, right here, see that? Just to add a bit of light on this, but I will reduce the intensity just a bit, like so. And then I have the main spotlight right here because I want to add shadow around this right part and this left part here as well. So let's click OK and show the before and after. Okay, so I don't know why, but nothing happened. Something is wrong with the filter because I couldn't see those lines really well. I don't know what happened. I'll delete both lights and do it again. Let's change this to spot. There's something wrong with the filter, I don't know, or in Photoshop I cannot see those lines. There's something wrong with it. I'll just undo it and leave it alone. I don't know. I have to close it and open it again. I don't know what happened. I'll paint them manually. Create a new layer. Use a soft brush. Paint with black. And just reduce the opacity and the flow to about 10 or 30. And just paint some shadows like that. That's okay. And this light you can see here, we destroyed it. So what I will do is create a new layer, and with the brush tool change the blend mode of this to screen, and just use a brush about that big and use the yellow color, and just click once there, but use a higher opacity and flow, and just click there once, but it's too, I don't really like it. I want it less saturated and a bit darker, like so. And then in the middle I'll paint with a smaller brush and a brighter color right there in the middle to add the light. And with Control Command U, the hue saturation, you can increase the saturation if you want to, or make it brighter or darker to decrease the intensity. And the next thing that I want to do is use the color balance, just to have it on top of everything and control the color, the final tones. Okay, so I usually on the shadows add some cyan and some blue. Let's see on the midtones, maybe a touch of magenta, and definitely some yellow, not too much. And on the highlights, let's see if we can add more cyan and blue, and maybe touch the greens, but maybe on the midtones, not on the highlights. The greens and the magentas are really sensitive, so especially the green. So if you don't know what you're doing, you're probably going to ruin your own work with this adjustment. Preserve luminosity, I don't know. And maybe add a gradient map. Let's try maybe this one, but with different colors, with something a bit towards the blue tone for the shadows, and then something like this for the highlights. And let's try the soft light blend mode and just decrease a bit the opacity. So while that's the image that I got, something really quick. You can also try overlay, or I don't know, maybe screen, but the screen will brighten up the whole image and you'll probably want to decrease the opacity, but let's leave it on soft light at 40 or something like that. So this is it. This is how I created this image. You can see it. This was the final, this was the final effect. You can see those lights that I added here and those particles. I'll give you the links to those. They were free on the internet. I downloaded them long time ago. I'll search for them and give you the links to those, and hopefully you will get the same result. This one is a bit colder than this one. This one has more yellow and more red tones, but in the end it depends on what you like. So well, I hope you liked this tutorial. If you did, you can subscribe to my channel. I have some more nice tutorials coming up. All I need is time to record them and upload them to YouTube. So again, thanks for watching and see you next time.